My hometown is Malton, Ontario, just basically on the borderline of Mississauga and Toronto. My dad actually bought us a basketball hoop for outside on our driveway. And that's kind of when I started picking up the ball. Me and my siblings, my cousins, and friends from like around my block area. We would all come to my house and play basketball, either if it's 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. My uncle would take me to go to his basketball games when I was young, and I really enjoyed him, and I seen the passion that he played with, the aggressiveness, and just the fast pace. And I like scoring. Like, scoring was my thing. I love putting the ball in the hoop, being able to defend. I just really liked the fast-paced game to it. During that time, I was playing soccer, and I really just kind of found the love for basketball. As I kind of got into that scene, I chose St. Thomas Aquinas, and it was probably the best decision I probably made regarding like school-wise and just the structure of St. Thomas Aquinas. Steve is the vocal, the leadership guy in the whole building. He runs the show, and for him being that head coach for me for my last 2 years I was there for, he really forced and pushed us to be better men. He kind of started these alumni games, I want to say 2 years after COVID. He kind of brought up the idea of bringing back the generations and teams who have won. It was one of those games where I was like, yeah, I can't let these guys beat me, because I know the smack talk they're gonna talk about after the game, and I had to put on a show, and yeah, we came out, pulled out the win in overtime. During my recruiting process, I was looking at schools in the States, from JUCO to NAIA to D2s to D3s to low major D1s. And options were kind of getting slimmer and slimmer as the days went by. I never really thought about coming to school in Canada, just because I played in the States for the past 3 years prior to. And my big dream was Division I basketball. I wanted to be the star. As I was kind of throwing my resume out there, my highlight films, a good friend of mine came to me. He was like, hey, do you know Daryl Glenn? Coaches at the University of Prince Edward Island. And I was like, oh, nice. And short story short is, Daryl Glenn used to play with my uncle, Brian, back in the day. They called him Thunder. He basically grew up around my area, and we kind of just talked about just dating back to when he used to coach my uncle and the history, and just his big thing was he wanted to change the program around. When he first came in, the program wasn't doing very well. He dated back to when he played here and how they won a lot of games and they won championships. And he was bringing in a lot of guys that he thought could really impact this program. So he told me, and he said, hey, you know, I want to take you on scholarship. I know you're a late signee, but I believe in you.
I think he initially came in thinking he was going to be one type of player. And then I think he realized really quickly that he had a lot of work to do in order to be the type of player that was going to be kind of like a dominant player at this level. And I think the good thing about Kamari is that he embraced that fairly quickly. Okay, I'm not where I thought I was going to be, and now I've got to really start putting in work. Every season he's come back and he's been better. And every season he's come back and he's been stronger. That was the one thing that he always had right from day one, was that effort and that motor and that work ethic.
I came in and I didn't take any visits or anything like that, just because I was a late signee. So it was kind of boom, boom, boom. Everything happened so fast, signed the papers. And when I got here, it was eye-opening coming and seeing the airport compared to Toronto or other airports that I've been in. It's literally 3 terminals, and this is probably the smallest airport I've ever flew out of or into. And then the one thing that really caught my eye was the red sand, seeing the red sand, or the red dirt, I mean. It brought me back to like Jamaica, and when I used to go there as a kid and see the red dirt as well. A lot of guys that come to AUS or the youth sports, they typically come from a team where they were the star guy, or they were the main guy in their school or on their basketball team. I was in that position where I'm coming from a high prep program in North Carolina where I was playing all the top players in the country to guys that are in the NBA now. To me, I felt like I was dominant and I could do anything and I could come in and give an impact right away. But then part of me knew that university ball is a different ball. Like, I'm playing against grown men now, and it takes a level of maturity and an experience to really excel at this level. My first year we had a lot of first year guys. We all came in probably with the same hopes of playing, starting, averaging 20 points per game, but we didn't really know reality. We just knew basketball, right? We're coming from a team where we were able to do that on a regular basis, right? So coming into university now was kind of different because Coach had his guys. Coach had a script that he went by. He had a game plan. It wasn't all one-on-one, flashy this, flashy that. Defense was my identity. I felt and I knew I could lock up anybody that was in front of me from 1 to 4, 1 to 3. And I proved that in my first year. Like, that was me. As a young guy, I was hectic, I was wild. All I knew was kind of one speed. And I feel like everybody kind of deals with that coming in their first year, is learning how to play with pace and knowing when to attack, when not to attack, reading help side defense better, just little stuff like that just kind of elevated my game.
What was the toughest thing about coming to TPI?
I want to say the biggest thing was probably my academics. In the previous year when I was in prep school, I was homeschooled. I was doing school all by myself. I had a tutor once a week. So now I'm making a transition from online to I'm in classes every day. Studying was tough for me, and completing assignments alone was tough for me, or it would just really take me a long time. But my first and second year were tough. My goals every year was all academic, make all academic, make all academic. I was on the verge, like right underneath it, my third year. My fourth year, I was just tickling it as well, like 78.3 or 79, like just there. I was just telling myself a little more, a little more, a little more. Last year, I was finally all academic, and I made the dean's list. This graduation is going to be a first time, like me walking across the stage, receiving something in such high manner, such like hard work. Daryl Glenn, he's probably going to be super excited. I think his daughter is actually graduating from McMaster around the same time, and told her that he's probably going to miss her graduation to come to mine. So I feel a little bad, but you know, it is what it is. My first season, we were all kind of young. It was a young team. And I'm coming from a prep team where we barely lost. We might have lost 3 games the whole season. I believe we were 3-17. That's my first ever UPI season. It was kind of like, damn, is this what university's gonna be like my whole 5 years? Boom, season's done. We live and we learn, and then COVID happens. PI was probably known for one of the safest places to be throughout the pandemic, because nobody could come in, nobody could go out. We just practiced and kind of gelled together, built our chemistry. Then the third season, that's when we kind of took off. We made it to the AUS finals. We beat Cape Breton in the quarterfinals. Then we beat St. FX, and then We had Dow in the finals and we ended up losing, I think it was by like 6 points. It was just by a little bit. And that's when we kind of seen the culture shift. We've seen the identity in UPI start to kind of change. We've seen the community start to come out to more games. Following that year was my 4th year. That year we were 15-5. We got back to AUS finals and lost to X. That was a little heartbreaker. It was kind of one of those games that they just happened. But luckily we got an opportunity to go to nationals since St. FX was hosting in Halifax that year. We ended up taking UVic all the way down to the 4th quarter to maybe the last shot, and we ended up losing by 1 point.
Under a minute to go in regulation. Miller on the drive. Finds Scott cutting back door. He'll bank it in.
What a pass. What a pass.
So it's
And that game was kind of my breakout game, or my game to say, like, this is my time. I had 32 and 12 rebounds that game, which was really put the city, the world on kind of notice. Following that year was my 4th year, and this time I'm kind of on my own. My sidekick Elijah Miller, he left, so 4th year it's just me. When Elijah was here, he had the ball in his hands majority of the time. He was a facilitator, he was a scorer. He could really do anything, man. That guy was special. So much guys were focusing on him that they would leave me and I'd cut to the basket, easy layup. So we had that little 1-2 punch there that really gelled. I knew that summer I had to prepare differently.
Kamari then now had to be the primary ball handler. And so that was taking on a completely different role. He had now had to include being a decision maker, being somebody that was going to initiate the offense, and we actually needed him to score. And I thought he responded extremely well.
Kamari was often the finisher when Elijah was here, and he did a great job of that. But last year and this year even more, the ball's in his hands all the time, and he's the creator now.
Now that he was kind of like the main guy, now he's got to, kind of put us on his back, and like we go as he goes, you know what I mean?
We didn't have a season that we expected to have, but luckily our last 3 games, we ended up pulling out 3 really good wins, which we needed to make playoffs. Last year was the first year where I was named 2nd team All-Star. We got to AUS and we lost in the quarters to SMU, which was a pretty good game, 68-64. And yeah, now we're here. My 5th and final year at UPI. I decided to stay this summer and continue working at Lone Oak. I'm a bartender there and I serve sometimes. On the side, I was just thinking to myself, I was like, what can I do that could help the youth? I probably had about 35 to 40 clients from the youth here in PI that were coming out on a weekly basis to get training done. Just here in the UPI gym, it blew up. I did it the whole summer.
You can just see he gets like a lot of kids, like 8, 9, sometimes 10 kids in just one session, and that's just, it's inspiring actually.
He's been doing it on his own time. Whenever he has free time, he'll send a text out to a couple of parents and whoever can come. He's tough yet fun, and he has a great time with the kids, and it's been a great experience. We're really grateful to have him, and we'll be really sad when he goes.
I wake up every morning at 7 a.m. I'll get to the gym by 7:45 and I'll get some shots up with my assistant coach, Marcus. I asked him in probably September after we were done boot camp, I say, hey Marcus, I want to get in the gym at like 7:45, 8 a.m. Like, could you do that? He was like, yeah, mate, sure. Let's do it. So we get an hour work in, lots of shots up, layups, footwork, ball handling, and I'm a big, firm believer of the work that you put in will show, so.
Every game you can see it, he wants it so bad for the team and for himself as well. And just ultimate competitor overall, so we need that as our captain, and he gets into guys when he needs to, but he also brings that positive energy, so he's got a good mix of both.
No shortcuts. I always, whenever me and my buddies are walking on like a path and they walk across the grass, I always tell them no shortcuts. I was like, well, you know, don't take no shortcuts in life. There's a path for a reason, you know. Take your pathway. You know, your pathway is gonna lead you to wherever you're going. You know, your shortcuts is you're just, you know, you're trying to make things short. You're trying to, you know, take shortcuts in life. Yeah, no shortcuts.